I want to go to the former Premier of New South Wales, former Labor Party Foreign Minister of this country, Bob Carr, joins me via Skype from Maroubra, I think, somewhere in Sydney. Anyway, Bob, good to talk to you again. You've been outspoken on this as well, saying that closing off beaches, those wonderful beaches on the to the east of Sydney, is an overreaction when people in couples or on their own should be able to get some exercise and go for a swim.
Yeah, we all recognise, Chris, the disaster of what happened a few weekends back. All those people at Bondi Beach mixing very close to one another, breathing all over one another, and that was a disaster. But I think everyone's learnt the lesson since then. And we have got a marvellous health resource in the beaches of Australia. I'm thinking of those in Sydney, of course. And I think we ought to be allowing people cooped up in their homes to go down and, without engaging with others, to plunge into the surf or run along the sand.
Yes, obviously good for their physical and mental health. And do you agree with Professor Peter Collignon that if you come down too hard with these rules unnecessarily, you might get a lack of community support, you might get resistance?
I'm not sure. I think everyone is working very hard at obeying the rules. They want to do the right thing. I think we've seen a big improvement in the way people are interacting since those, the toilet roll stories and the scenes on Bondi Beach 2 weeks ago. I think you can trust people. And I think it does send a positive message if you tweak the rules and say, look, our beaches are a great, as I put it, a great resource for mental and physical health. We want a fit population, mentally and physically. If you go onto the sands as an individual, take care that you're not caught up in conversation with others, waiting to plunge into the waves, running along the beach, there is no risk of spreading this virus as a result of that behaviour.
Yeah, Bob Carr, when it comes to the origins of this pandemic, does the Chinese government, the Beijing regime, stand condemned for the way they denied and were deceptive about the nature of this outbreak, didn't alert the rest of the world, and they've caused enormous damage through that irresponsible behaviour?
Well, we can spread blame all over the place, and I'm very critical, and I've made this point to Chinese contacts, very critical of the tolerance by city and county police in China and bureaucrats of this trade in the meat of wild animals. And there seems that the strongest hypothesis we've got for the origin and the spread of this disease in its very early days is a virus moving from bats via wild animals to human beings.
I think there's broad condemnation of those practices across the world, and I think everybody would agree with that. But what about with the regime suppressing, even imprisoning and charging people who are alerting us to this virus and the dangers of it, and you have actually the regime suppressing the information in an irresponsible behaviour that's actually enabled it to become a pandemic?
Well, that's valid. If I were Foreign Minister of Australia, I would be raising that with my Chinese counterpart. And I'd be seeking the strongest assurances, not just sending it to the WHO, but in bilateral exchanges with the Foreign Minister in Beijing, seeking absolute assurances that the Chinese were having nothing to do with a trade in the meat of wild animals, endangered and not endangered, and seeking further assurances that that law was going to be vigorously enforced at the city and council and county level. But I think there are lessons to be learned all over. I mean, at the very start of this, when we knew what it was, we knew we were dealing with a virus. Fox News, a vital media outlet in the US, was saying this was a conspiracy. You had the US president himself earlier this month.
And we had the New York Times and others here saying it was racist to even mention it. But we do have to move on.
No, I don't recall that. But you certainly had a US president, Chris, who was getting up at his very entertaining conferences saying this is no more serious than the seasonal flu.
He was indeed. He was downplaying it. He was downplaying it. He was slow to act. There's no doubt about that. Bob Carr, we are out of time. I hope to talk to you soon.
Okay, pleasure, Chris. Thank you.